Good morning. I want to make sure that I start this off right. It's 2019, and this is my first video for the year. I am excited, but the topics that I am talking about are very serious. We are living in very serious times, and according to the Bible, it says, Proverbs 3 and 27, do not withhold good from those to whom it is due when it is in your power to do it. Now, again, I speak from a place of my very own experience and my very own uh, testimony that God has, pretty much changed my whole life and the things that I've gone through and things that I had to deal with. Now, slow down is a message that I want to bring to everyone's attention because a lot of my younger days, because I had lost my mother and my father, for whatever reason, I felt like I had to expedite my life. Like I felt like I had to have it all together at 20 years old. I felt like I had to have a nice car. I felt like I had to be, buying a home. I felt like I had to have a pretty girlfriend. I felt like I had to have all of these things by the time I was 25. I felt like I should have been married at 28, and things of that nature. So my entire life consisted of me moving too fast. And my biggest testimony that I can say that I've gone through and come out of was that God had always been in my life. I just really had no knowledge and understanding of how to truly become closer to Him and really be, in tune with Him. And one of the major things was because I lacked accountability, I lacked simple principles that a lot of people don't understand, that these are things that are truly controlling you and taking you away from the love of God is, really yourself. So oftentimes I felt like I could do it on my own. Oftentimes I felt lost and I was just trying to find a way. So between me moving from state to state, between me being separated from my brothers and sisters, between me going from job to job, I had to learn that I was moving way too fast because I was always thinking, you know, ahead of myself. I was always ahead of myself as far as, my thinking. And it's not bad to think ahead, but it's bad when you're thinking ahead of what God has planned for your life. And I didn't understand those things. So slow down. We have to slow down. We live in a world where everything is fast paced. We live in a world where, you can go to the NBA out of high school. We live in a world where, we want to go to college and graduate in 4 years and then have a degree and then we have all this money. You know, we live in a world that's primarily constructed for us to just move through life very fast paced. And picture yourself being in a car. It could be whatever car you want to think that it is. If you're in this car going 200 miles per hour, what is it that you can actually see clearly? Everything is a blur. So if there was somebody on the side of the road that needed a ride and they waved their hand and said, "Hey, I need a ride." If you're going 200 miles per hour, you can't see them, you can't hear them, you have absolutely no idea. You may not even know that they're there. And oftentimes that is how we treat God. Like that's how we treat Him. We're moving through life so fast, and we're so stuck on ourselves and trying to figure out where do we go and what do we do with our life. So moving too fast, you miss out on necessary steps. I went through a very, 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 very tough 2018. A very tough 2018. I pretty much was in my home most of the time. I pretty much was at work. I pretty much been having to uh, find a way to get to see my daughter. So everything has not been very great for me. But in that time, me not having a vehicle, me really kind of being very financially unstable, I found that, being in the presence of God, I really didn't need those things. And I honestly feel like He took away some of those things from me so that He could show me that I needed to slow down. I had problems with just wanting to move through things and not fully understanding them. And I think that a lot of people deal with that. Uh, a lot of people have a lack of understanding as far as how fast paced we're moving. When you're skipping necessary steps, like let's just say you're born into a family that primarily has a lot of money. There's values, there's principles, there's discipline, there's you know hard work, there's consistency, there's work ethic, there's all these things that can come into play that can get in the way of your understanding of how to manage this money. And I think a lot of times, in my younger age, I was not primarily chasing money, but I was chasing something to where I could just be okay, where I could, save some money and then, put it away and then kind of plan out what I wanted to do with my life. But my life is not my own, it belongs to God. So He wasn't allowing me to just plan it out on my own because He had bigger plans for me Himself. And that was my biggest mishap in my life, is just not slowing down to just pay attention to certain situations that I was going to pay attention or to listen to God when certain times when I felt like He would speak to me in certain situations. And I'll just use this situation as an example. I drove from California to Texas when I was 19 years old. I had bought my first car and I was getting ready to go back to school. And I just I decided, one of my friends called me, was like, hey, I got a job for you, and I got a job. Matter of fact, I was working at HEB, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to drive out there and I'm going to do it. I'm going to get a place. I'm going to establish, residency, because I was out of state, because I was in California and I'm in Houston. So I was trying to establish residency to lower, what I would have to pay for school. I got everything done. I was rushing through it. I got a job. I was working. I went and found a place. Got a lease for about 6 months. And then I had got back in school. I got back in school, and then I was denied financial aid. And I was stuck in this position where I didn't know what I was going to do or how I was going to do it. But before I had made it to Texas, my car, I don't know what happened, to be honest with you. My car kind of like it wouldn't start. It was very cold. I was at a gas station, and I just remember being so scared. I was just like, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I'm almost to Texas, but I can't call anybody to come and get me. I'm literally just in the middle of nowhere, at a gas station, and my car wouldn't start. I didn't have any money. I must have bowed my head and I prayed and I said, Lord, if you get me out of this situation, I'll come to you. I'll do what it is that you're asking me to do. And next thing I know, after I got done praying, I sat there for about a good 5-10 minutes. And, I said, I'm just going to try to start my car up just to see what's going to happen. And my car started up. There were many times in my life where, because I was moving so fast, I wound up getting to a position where I would be stuck, either financially or just kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do. And those would be the times that I would pray to God and ask Him, would He help me through the situation? And then when He would help me through the situation, I would go back to kind of doing what I wanted to do. But a major reason of me kind of just doing what I wanted to do was because I had no sense thereof of accountability of my own actions and things of that nature. One of the things that I kind of came up with for my business as far as a quote is, I'm not in a race to get the cash. I'm seeking my purpose in something that will last. I have so much of a sense of peace, so much of a sense of patience, so much of a sense of understanding now that I have gone through those trials and tribulations and I've actually understood. And that is why knowledge and wisdom is so important, because if you lack the knowledge and wisdom, then you lack the understanding to understand why people do the things that they do, understand why we are so fast paced in this world that we live in. This video was so important to me to do for the beginning of the year, because I know everyone has their New Year's resolutions. I know everyone wants to get into shape. I know everyone wants to start their new diet. I know everyone has this thing that they want to work on for 2019. But my focus and what I'm working on is continuing to grow closer to God, with the patience that He has taught me. Um, when you find a sense of yourself, it causes you to slow down. I didn't know who I was. I never took the time out to even learn me. So the times that I would call out on God, I never really understood his power. I never really understood what He could do for my life. I had a lack of understanding. I never truly just bought into what He could do for my life and how it could change my life around. And I just kept fighting to try to make it a way for me, myself, that, hey, I can do this, this is something that I can do, but it was always a void, that was not filled, even if I did get a good job, even if I was in a good position. And there was a time in my life where I did have a lot of money, but it still wasn't I didn't feel complete. Like, I could go where I wanted to go. I could, travel. I could go on a vacation if I had wanted to. I could have put rims on my car if I wanted to. I could have bought jewelry if I wanted to. But none of those things satisfied, me. Having money in my bank account gave me a sense of peace, but not like the peace that you have when you know that anything that you encounter or go through, God will handle, God will take care of, and you can defer it to Him. I don't worry about tomorrow because tomorrow's not promised. And slowing down helped me to see that, helped me to understand that clearly. Um, Everybody is structured different. Everybody's mind is different. Everybody's walk of life is different. Everybody is so different. Another reason why we need to slow down is because it's like we're in a race with the person that's next to us, and we're looking at the person that's next to us like, well, he has this and he has this and he has this and he has this. Let me ask you something. Name one person that has actually passed away, that when they pass away, we talk about what they had rather than who they were. Nobody talks about what you have. Nobody talks about your assets, your home, your cars, all these things that you have when you pass away. Because we cannot conform to the patterns of this world, but we have to be transformed in the renewing of our minds, and that is from the Bible. We cannot chase what's in this world because what's in this world won't last. It's not going to last. It won't be here forever. Values, principles, morals, it goes deep into a lot of what people don't understand. And the time that I took away from doing these videos, I learned a lot about spiritual warfare, and that's really something that goes on whether you choose to believe it or not. If you look at the movies, if you look at the times that we're in, you don't have to have a relationship with God to know and see that this world is in a very, very messed up state. But I sit here before you in complete, utter peace, because what's going on in this world doesn't matter. I may get a lot of criticism for this, but I didn't vote. I didn't vote for Obama. I didn't vote for Trump. And I've always stood by my belief in, feeling that God is above all things. So presidency, laws, the legal system, all these things, you know, they're controlled, by God ultimately, and when you start thinking about things along the lines of what God really wants from you, when you start taking yourself accountable, you won't never have to go in front of a judge because you're not out doing the wrong things. You're not out stealing. You're not out killing. You're not out being, raping or anything like that. You're not. You're in, what God wants you to be. You're walking with God in the right way. A lot of people are professing and talking about God and preaching the word of God, but not truly walking, with Him. Slowing down gave me a sense of understanding that I don't think I ever would have got if he didn't put me in the position that I was in. Not having a car in Houston has been absolutely difficult. Um, I wanted to give up. I wanted to quit. I wanted to just, you know, roll over and say, I'm done. Um, those of you that know me, I've had a car and I've had transportation since I was about 18. So it really hit me because for a lot of my life I was unstable, and a huge part of my life, my car pretty much was my home. Um, it was tough for me to go through those times because I always had transportation. There were many nights that I slept in my car. There were many nights that I've gone hungry. There were many times where in my mind I always had to make a decision and a choice whether I wanted to do the wrong thing or the right thing. There were many times that I went without that, I wanted to go and steal something, or I wanted to go, you know, and do something not in, that would have either, got myself in trouble. Um, I've had many mistakes in my life, but a lot of my mistakes came from anger, depression, stress, things that I went through in my life, just getting to a point where I got fed up and I would just get so mad and angry and I would lose control. But again, I was just moving through life too fast, trying to figure it out because I had lost my parents, and I never really was able to even talk about these things until I started spending time with God. I wrote a piece on, self, which I'll probably just put out a little bit later, but I literally had to pray to God and I had to ask Him to show me who I was, because I knew for a long time that I had problems and issues that resulted from my past. But if we're being on this topic, it's deeper than what a lot of people will believe that it is. And I truly mean that. Spiritual warfare, it's real, and you're going through it if you're dealing with anger, if you're dealing with depression, if you're dealing with stress, if you're dealing with anxiety, if you're dealing with, you know, um, fear. God does not give us the spirit of fear. So all these things that I had absolutely no control of, because I had absolutely no idea of what was really going on. Uh, there's a verse that I do want to mention, and it actually was the verse of the day. Now that we're on that topic, Ephesians 6 and 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And I can't go deep into those topics because, I'm a baby with Christ. I'm still learning. I'm still walking with Him. I'm still being held accountable for my actions. I'm still working on my relationship with Him every single day. Working on my relationship with Him means that I did cut out a lot of things. And before I actually slowed down to pay attention to things that I absolutely didn't need, I stopped spending money on drinks. I stopped spending money on weed. I stopped spending money on going out to the club, because when you go out, you just kind of start seeing in a different light, where people are in their lives, and just kind of having a discernment of, wow, people are truly searching for something, and that what they're searching for is their father. Um, and I know that I can speak from that from pure truth, because for a very long time, not having my mother and my father, it weighed on me for a very long time. And I just was searching. I was searching, trying to find something that could, love me, trying to find something that would understand what I was going through, trying to find something that would take away all of this pain and turn it into something different. And oftentimes I would go to Him, but I wasn't opening up about what was inside. A lot of people will look at your life as a whole. If you look at my life as a whole, I had a good life. but nobody ever really asked me what was going on inside. Nobody knew what was going on inside. Nobody knows what's going on inside except for God, and the devil, if we're being honest, and when you're moving too fast, you can't listen to him, you can't hear him speak. There's distractions, there's social media, there's pollution, there's pornography, there's all these things that are clouding your judgment and taking you away from God. And even people that know the Bible, that preach it, that talk about it, are still far removed from God because they don't live it. The times that we are in and where we're at, you got to know God for yourself. You have to. You got to know him for yourself. And it's there. He's there for you to reach out and ask him, what's truly going on. And again, I speak from absolute experience. There was a situation, and it's talked about in Mind Over Actions, if you're on my page, but that night I cried. As you showed no emotion at all, my mind took over my actions because I knew I had to be strong. So I stayed patient. That night was the night that I truly cried out to God for help. I didn't have a direction in where I was wanting to go. And I finally said, if you're here, then I need you to show me. I need you to truly show me, guide me, and get me through this situation. Because I didn't want to be a dad that brought my child into this world that I knew nothing about. I knew nothing about the way that I do now. And not take accountability for my actions and the person that I was. And a big part of that was my daughter. A huge part of that, But at the same time, I was in a different mindset at that time. I had already been kind of exposed to it. I had already been driving Uber for an entire year and just listening to people's testimonies. And I said, man, I have kids that look up to me. I have kids that look up to me. And how can I say that I'm a leader if I'm not presenting myself in the right way? If I'm not living what I'm preaching to them? That would make me a hypocrite. Because if I go and I tell my kids, don't smoke or don't drink or don't do this, and I do it, then I'm confusing them. And that is what goes on. It's really deep, man, when you start getting an understanding and when you start truly seeing that it's really not about what's going on in this world. It's not. You got to be far removed from what's going on in this world, because it's just distractions. It's to keep you away from your Father. It's to keep you away from the Creator. We're creations running around following creations instead of our Creator. And we've got to slow down and we've got to pay attention to these things. Imagine you're on a mountain and you have 5 people that are on the mountain. And I'm just going to use my hand. These 5 people that are on the mountain, as you can see, my index finger is smaller than my middle finger. So what I'm indicating is these all 5 people are different from each other. So my index finger may be able, my middle finger may be able to do what my index finger can't if I'm climbing the mountain. These are people in reference to climbing the mountain. This person may be able to move a little bit faster. This person may be slower. This person may be doing it in a mindful way. He may be using tools or, things to climb the mountain. This person may be saying, hey, I can't do it, or whatever the case may be. But oftentimes, this is what we look like trying to match up with everybody else, trying to catch up. It just looks awkward, it looks weird. We're trying to match what that person is doing because we're lost and we feel like that person is ahead because that person's way up here. When you start walking with God, this is what it should look like. You and him. That's it. Nobody else should be involved in your walk with him. But when you're not moving, when you're moving too fast, you're just intertwining with other people and you're, lost and you're just racing through life and you're, I got to get money, I got to get a house, and you're kind of chasing status. But throughout 2018, it was just me and him. And when it's just you and him, you're forced to look at yourself in a different way. You're forced to hold yourself accountable. You're forced to look at your faults. You can't look at anybody else if nobody else is around. But when there's other people around, he did it, she did it, I didn't do it. It's a part of what I used to go through. There's always a reason, but it's never an excuse. And again, we're living in times where this is where you got to be with God. Nobody can know your walk. Nobody knows what you've gone through inside. Nobody knows what you deal with mentally. Only you and God. If we don't slow down and truly understand ourselves as a whole to understand why we need God, then we'll just forever be lost. You gotta work on yourself first. If you take flying on an airplane as another example, when they go through the whole breakdown of, the instructions of what you should do, when the masks, like if say the masks come out and you guys need oxygen, what do they tell you to do? You gotta put on your mask first before you can help somebody else. But we can't help ourselves first. And that's, a lot of the problem where social media, where, rappers, singers, actors, we want to be like them. We just want to have an idea. We want to identify with them. And these are idols that we're worshiping. And God is a jealous God. You got to have God right here. And when he's right here, you're not about to go have sex out of marriage. You're not about to go drink and get drunk and then start speaking profanity. You're not about to go and to wild parties and entertain sex and all these other things that we deal with. But again, all these things that we as humans deal with, anger, depression, sexual immorality, these are spirits. Man, and that it is. And again, there are other people that you can watch on YouTube and they will break that down to the T. What I'm here to talk about is my own experiences and my knowledge that I have actually gained from just taking a step back and really focusing on what it is that God wanted me to talk about. Man, and it's the basic of the most basic things that we don't realize are keeping us away from him. And we gotta learn, and one thing that God truly dislikes is a hardened heart. And it's not that God is a God of disliking you. He dislikes that thing because he cannot teach you if you're not willing to learn. If you're not opening your mind to instruction, if you're not accepting instruction. Proverbs 1:7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. If you're beginning to want to come and to know God, the first thing that you have to do is you have to admit to him your flaws, the things that you've gone through in your life, what has held you back, and you've got to repent. I can talk about these things because they no longer hold me back. I'm no longer a prisoner of all of those things, of my past. And I've been tested many a times. I've been tested with, a lot of things throughout this walk in 2018. And you have to fight for what you believe in. And when you start coming to know God, He doesn't waste time. If you're dedicated to it, He will open your eyes like that. Like, it's explained throughout my M.O.A. song. It is explained, and that's why I like to kind of put some of these messages in just song or just poem or however it comes out. It just comes out the way that it comes out. I'm not a rapper, I'm not a poet. It just comes out in a way where it's a message, and it's really constructed to really kind of give a glimpse of what I had to walk through and what I had to go through. And if you really listen to it, you really get the message out of it, and kind of understand it. But it's just like reading the Word of God. I didn't start reading my Bible until I started facing myself. I was actually reading self-help books before I started reading the Bible, because when I tried reading the Bible when I was younger, it didn't make any sense to me, because I was so far removed from God because of all of these, because of depression, because of anger, because of unforgiveness. And when you start having a sense of understanding, you start having the ability to be able to forgive. I no longer look at my past as something that hurts me. I look at it as something I went through, I got through, and God got me through it. And He's using that to allow me to use it as my testimony, just to glorify His name. Slowing down opened my mind up to all of these things. And that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to just take a step back from doing these videos just for a little while, just so that I could refocus, just so that I could recalculate, and prepare myself, for the full year, because I didn't want to do these videos and not be consistent with it, and then it not really mean something. I believe in authenticity, so I don't remake these videos. I do them, one time through, and if I make mistakes, I make mistakes. But it's the authenticity in which I speak that I feel like people can relate to. And if you've gone through something, then that is your testimony for you to be able to tell others, so that they can understand that God's love shines through you. And that's just what I'm here trying to do. It has changed me in just so many ways, and I'm just so grateful. I'm just so thankful that God has, been patient with me and understanding. And one of the things that I want to bring up too about slowing down, because as a parent, and I think that this is a really good analogy for people that have kids, when I look at myself and I look at my child, my children, I have a sense of what God goes through, because when I was younger and I didn't, accept God fully, I would lie to Him. I would only come to Him when I wanted or needed something. I didn't show my appreciation. I didn't understand His love. I didn't understand my disciplines at times. If you think about that relationship that we're supposed to have with God, it's the same type of relationship that He would expect you to have with your child. When your child is coming to you, if you lack emotional intelligence, if you lack empathy, then you won't have an understanding of what's going on with your child. You don't have a connection with your child if you're not truly listening to them. But if you're moving too fast and you're not slowing down, then you can't listen. You cannot have an understanding if you're moving through life too fast. everybody's just in a rush nowadays, to the point where our jobs are structured to a point where we're at work more than we are in our children's lives. You know, if you work a 9 to 5, or even if you're an entrepreneur, what are you being an entrepreneur for? Or is it for the money? Is it for the excitement? Is it for the travel? Like, if you have a child or children and you're an entrepreneur, how often are you investing in your children? How often are you talking to them about bullies? How often are you talking to them about themselves? How often are you instilling in them morals, values, and principles, and all these things, um, that really matter when you get older? We put our kids in school, and then our kids learn so much from school. They're coming back from school knowing about sex, violence, guns, drugs. They know about all these things. Kids know what weed smells like. Like, they are not as dumb as we have in the past treated them to be. Like, we think that kids cannot understand, and we think that kids cannot listen. But kids are the best vessels to instill these principles and these values, because they're open-minded. They do not know of the world. When I look at my daughter or my children, it's you look at them and you truly see that they don't know anything other than what's in front of them, what they can create, how much fun they can have. They don't worry about bills. They're not worried about money, man. If you really sit and you look at children in the way that they are, that is what I aspire to be like. And y'all may look at me like I'm crazy, but I want to be like my kids, because they're open-minded. They're unhurt by the pains of this world. They do not know anything other than what they're being taught. Their innocence, it's just, it will blow your mind what you could train up a child to be, if you train up a child through God's word and in the will of God, and just training them up to be in the right way, the things that they could grow up and do. But we are not right within ourselves because we've moved too fast. This is pertaining to having children, at a young age. That's what moving too fast leads to. And then we start putting ourselves in just this big pile of mess, and now we just don't want to clean it up. We just leave it there, and we just walk away because we have absolutely no idea how to clean it up. We don't know where we're at. We don't know what to do. But we have to just slow down. Kids have such an innocence to them that we begin to strip it away from them by what we are doing, by what society is teaching them, by what they're watching, by what they're listening to, by the idols that they're worshiping, by everything that's going on around them. Do you know that that is the plan of the enemy? Because if you get to them while they're young, then they grow up in these bad habits. They grow up in denial. They grow up lying. They grow up, wanting to have sex, wanting to sin. They grow up dealing with these things, and it's embedded in them for years. God, clean me out. Clean me out in 1 year. In 1 year, like, I get chills just thinking about it. In 1 year, I cleaned out all of the things that I was dealing with for 28 years by just slowing down. I cleaned out all the things that I was dealing with by simply just slowing down and having patience. The fruits of the Spirit are patience, love, kindness. I could go over so many scenarios that I've had to experience at work through people not having just the simplest things. But Not having the simplest things keeps us away from God. That concludes my message, man. If you listen this far, I hope that you truly take time to pray and ask God to show you truth for yourself, and truth in how this can maybe relate to your life, and truth in how maybe you can take something, anything from just the message that I've spoken today, because it doesn't come from me. It's not about me. I'm just speaking on my experiences and the things that I've truly had to deal with, and how I know that these are things that people deal with is because I dealt with them. It's everywhere. It's in the way that you talk. It's in the way that you carry yourself. It's in the way that you respect people when no one's around. It's in the way that you react to a conversation. It's in the way that you react to everything. It's all around us, in everything that we do. We have to walk. What it may be cliche, but what would Jesus do? And I often just look at that when it comes to me, and when it comes to taking accountability and just slowing down. Not everybody is going to understand on the same level, but if you open your mind up to being susceptible to instruction, then there's no limit to the things that you can learn. There's no limit to the things that you can do. And that's just the truth. For a long time, I lacked confidence. I lacked self-esteem. I lacked understanding. I lacked, a vision. I knew I wanted to be something. I knew I wanted to go out in the world and do something. But there was always a void that I was trying to fill, and God was the only one that could fill it. I can't make this up. I speak from my heart, man. I speak from pure truth. I am living to be an example for my kids, and to be an example to others, and to allow Lord, God, Jesus, to continue to lead my life. When He's your leader and you truly accept it, then you just cut out all of the other things. It comes with it, and my life is so much better without those things. My life is so much more peaceful without those things. I don't worry about anything, whatever situation that it is. And there's been a lot of things that have come up that I feel like have tried to stop me from opening up about this information and talking about it. But like I said, man, I feel like it would be a sin to not share this with people, because people are searching and people are lost, and God is the only thing that can fill that void. Actually, matter of fact, thank you, Lord. I just was watching a video the other day, and if y'all want to Google it, YouTube it, go ahead. Kodak Black was on the Breakfast Club, and they all had ski masks on. Y'all gotta go Google it. They all had ski masks on, and he said, "Man, I have everything that I want, but there's something that I'm searching for. It's something I'm searching for. Something." And they asked him, they said, "Well, what is it that you're searching for?" And immediately, the first thing that came out of my mouth when I was watching it is God. That's what he's, searching for. And this, this is no disrespect to anybody. I love everybody. I'm not saying, he's a bad person. Everybody's a good person. You just have to find yourself with God. But at the same time, man, I truly believe that he finds what it is that he's searching for, and I believe that that's Jesus. I believe it is. And to be honest with you, I prayed for him. I did. I pray for my friends. I pray for my family. I pray for people oftentimes, because when you start realizing how powerful that is, it truly makes a difference. And I've been able to see that firsthand. I was able to see that firsthand with one of my good friends. And it's not for me to break down what happened and how it happened. Between me and him, we know. And between me and God, we know. But I still do speak on things that truly matter, and things that can maybe make a difference. We cannot make a difference until we start changing ourselves and realizing that the only thing worth living for, the only thing worth fighting for, is to be in the presence of Jesus, to be, with our Father. Again, if y'all made it this far in the video, nothing but peace and blessings. I do pray for everyone that is watching this video that it helps you in some way, that God will speak through you in some way and help you to understand, the peace that I have now, because I would love for everybody to have this peace. It's amazing, man, and I would never go back from it. I would never change from it. Before I leave, I do want to say a verse. It is Isaiah 40:31. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. Y'all have a blessed day. Mind over actions. Peace.